April is a very important month on our island and in the Lowcountry with Heritage Week, spring break and all. It's also a very important time to be thinking about organ transplants. Rick Lofgren of the Children's Organ Transplant Association joins us remotely from Indiana. Rick, welcome to WHHI. Your organization's been helping families, including those here in the Lowcountry, for 35 years, not just helping find donors, but supporting families dealing with transplants and all the anxieties that go with them. Explain a little about that.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on,
Sure.
Bob. Our organization is actually celebrating our 35th anniversary later this month, and that coincides with National Organ Donor Month, which is throughout the United States for the express purpose of finding people to register as an organ or tissue donor. Right now, more than 100,000 Americans are waiting for a life-saving transplant, and our goal is to ensure that every one of those patients has an opportunity to have that life-saving transplant. And what we do is we raise money to meet those expenses those families have across the board. So co-payments, deductibles, all those things that each of us would go through in our normal living expenses. But when you add in the fact that the transplant is a multi-$100,000 experience, it really does devastate many families.
Are we getting closer to a time when that matchup process is getting better? Are we getting closer to matching the number of people who need with the number of people who can help?
It's getting closer, Bob, but honestly, it's not where it needs to be.
Yeah.
With more than 100,000 people waiting, and when you divide the list, right now, kidney transplants by far and away are the biggest need, and March is actually National Kidney Month, and so it's important for us to talk about that now.
Sure.
It really is much of a supply and demand issue, and the supply, unfortunately, cannot keep up with the demand for patients that need a life-saving transplant.
Yeah. You also, what are the other things you get involved with besides the nuts and bolts of making things happen? I would imagine a family needing a transplant needs a lot of emotional support too. Are you guys involved in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, we have several patients right now that are on the waiting list at MUSC.
Okay.
And for coincidence purposes, there are 3 of those kids that are heart transplant families, and they need a lot of extra support that way because going through this is difficult enough. But when you throw in a pandemic on top of that, it's been very difficult for our families trying to learn, how do we get our kids through school? How do we do clinic visits? How do we get the normal things that you and I take for granted done in a day? And so we try to meet those needs for families, get them to social service agencies that can help them, get them to support groups, make sure that their physical and emotional needs are taken care of as well as their medical needs.
What's the easiest way for a family who might think they could use your services to get in touch with you guys?
Well, the easy way for families that are at home is to give us a call at 800-366-2682 or go to our website, that's cota.org, and there are lots of options for us to help you, but we want to make sure that all of the families that are waiting for a life-saving transplant have that support that we provide at no cost.
Absolutely. That's terrific. And if it's coming at no cost, where are you getting your help on the back end?
Well, what we do is we have our own fundraising to cover our operational costs, and we pay the bills for our families. And while that money's waiting to be paid for those medical bills, we keep the interest income to operate the organization, but worked very well for 35 years.
Okay, so folks who want to help, might not be a bad idea for them to go to cota.org as well. Rick, thank you so much. Rick Lofgren of the Children's Organ Transplant Association.
Thank you, Bob.
When we come back, we'll talk about saving lives on the island in a bit more conventional manner and remind you why the show must go on even a year later.